Yes. We're on the road again, Ron.
Are we in the car now, or are we on a train? What's going on now?
We are
We're driving now, right? We're
yeah,
in
yeah.
Pennsylvania right now, right?
I'm just leaning. You're driving.
Oh,
I'm just leaning out the window.
yeah.
Uh,
Get out of the way, hippie.
the Pennsylvania hippie.
Pennsylvanian hippie.
Yes, it's a septic shock road trip, of course. What else could it possibly be? Boy, oh boy, are we in for some fun. So here's another double bill of horror from the golden age of the independence, 60s to 80s, more or less. And we're still in Pennsylvania, so we've got another couple here. Normally, I would go about doing this chronologically, but let's get fucking Blood Eaters out the way first.
Okay.
So we have a bit more time.
Fucking Blood Eaters. Okay.
Yeah, so here we go. So Blood Eaters, aka Toxic Zombies, aka Forest of Fear, on video in the UK, where it became a video nasty, surprisingly. So this was quite a sought after title. One of the side effects of the video nasty craze was, you know, you'd spend ages and ages and ages tracking down nth generation copies, and you'd get something, and then, oh, for fuck's sake, is that it? Like, the thought that people really wanted to see Blood Eaters is
Yeah. So the video nasties thing was really kind of a blessing on these movies that would have been just
so, yeah, for some of
like
them, yeah.
like rightfully just forgotten, but because they got put in this video nasties kind of list, and suddenly they became like sought after and famous for
absolutely
no good reason.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, I mean, and there's worse example. I mean, to be fair, I mean, Blood Eaters is not that bad, but there's even worse films that should have just been ignored, but yeah, have kind of acquired a sort of cult status because of that, right? Anyway, so yes, there's some people growing marijuana in the woods of somewhere in Pennsylvania, some deeply rural, huge area of woodlands, right? That apparently it's just difficult to track people. So there's some pot farmers, some hippies growing some pot. Those Pennsylvania hippies you were shouting at the very beginning there on.
The what, sorry?
The Pennsylvania hippies that you were shouting at.
Yeah, right. Yes, they were there. And growing their Mary Jane.
Yes, and because as we all know, marijuana is the devil's work.
Right.
The feds after them. I guess it's the feds. I think they're supposed to be, and they've
sent. They're not just growing marijuana, but they have like millions of dollars of marijuana. So it's like a lot of marijuana. It's like they said it's like $2 million worth of marijuana or something, right? So it's like that's a lot of marijuana.
It's quite funny at the beginning. You got these turn out to be these federal agents, and they they discover these and they gun them down, right? Like they shoot.
Yeah.
And you think, fuck yeah, man. They're just growing some weed.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So they but then they get their comeuppance as well, right? They get killed by the farmers. So so they've lost contact with FBI headquarters, I don't know, and I mean, they've got a real hard on for these pot farmers, right? And they're like, oh no, how are we gonna? I'm not quite sure why they're so like, oh no, we got to get them now before they'll escape, and we can't get anyone else. I know, I got a great idea. Let's hire a drunken fucking man who owns his own little plane, crop duster, to we'll send him this dangerous experimental herbicide called Dromax, and then he can spray the entire area. And then I'm still not quite sure. So is the idea just
I think they were just trying to kill the plants. That's when I'm guessing. I think I'm not really entirely sure either, but I get the impression because it's a herbicide. So I think the idea was just to kill all the plants so that they wouldn't have anything to
Right.
sell, right? So
Before this dreaded marijuana gets out and ruins the world with its
right,
demonic
I think
properties.
so they they hired this like drunken like guy with marital problems,
Yeah.
real nagging wife,
One of the
and
better characters in the film, I think. I quite like him and his nagging wife. They were quite amusing.
yeah,
Because
right.
like he gets out of, he's been drunk on his ass for days, obviously, and he comes and he answers the phone and he's like, "Oh, hang on, let me just check my calendar." And his wife just in the background. I thought that was quite funny. It's funny, there's a few little character bits in here.
Yeah, the guy in the woods, right? Of course, right?
Yeah.
In the house, yeah.
But so basically they spray this Dromax or whatever it's called, and he hits them bang on. They get covered in this white powder, and then I'm not exactly sure they become. Well, they're not zombies. They haven't died. They're infected. I tell you what, this film reminded, because obviously shot in Pennsylvania, kind of zombie-like film. People think of Giorgio Romero, right? It's going to be, and there's a bit of that in there, but it's more like the Crazies, which we watched last time.
Yeah, which is not really sure what's wrong with them. Sometimes because they're kind of zombies, but they act like zombies where they kind of eat you, but then they also carry weapons, and
the overall tone was a bit more than anything else. It was like I Drink Your Blood. I think if you remember, we watched I Drink Your Blood.
Okay, yeah,
something a bit like that about it, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, they kind of wander about with machetes, and they seem to be very thirsty as well, right? They seem to be very thirsty.
Yeah, they're always drinking water.
And then they kill, and then sometimes they drink the blood, but they don't seem to eat. Like they attack someone and then they bugger off. They don't eat the body, or the cannibals. Not quite sure what.
It was kind of like the Crazy in that you're not really sure what the symptoms are or what is happened to them, but it's just sort of something.
But bad. I think even you would agree, Ron, even though you weren't a big fan of it, The Crazies is a masterpiece compared to Blood Eaters, though, right? I mean,
yeah, I guess, yes.
And there's some characters that, well, including the director, Chuck McCran, who was the director and producer. He's the main character. He's out there,
interestingly, as a bit of trivia, I don't know if you saw this, he died in the September 11th attacks.
He did die in September 11th. And as much as I don't like Blood Eaters, that's some pretty harsh fucking film criticism right there.
Yeah, I think that's Bin Laden sent those planes just because fucking Chuck McCran, Blood Eaters. I gotta get him.
Blood Eaters one night. What is this?
What is this? Get some planes. Hijack some planes and kill this guy.
Yeah, no, he does. He was, sorry, he's gone now. He was a big fan of the zombie film, was Zombie Bin Laden, and he didn't like a bad one. And there's some other characters. There's like a family with there's a brother and sister, and the brother's supposed to be like
they're supposed to be kids, but they're quite hilariously not kids. But they're supposed to be playing and the brother's supposed to be this mentally handicapped boy. But and they're supposed to be also like a little little bit older but still young girl. But they're obviously just adults.
I like the other character who, when he's trying to cheer up the retarded brother or something, kind of does the peek behind the peekaboo thing, but his version of it is to do a racist kind of Chinese impression.
Yeah.
Okay then.
Right.
Another bit I did like, in terms of like I said, little character bits here and there are quite good. There's one bit that made me laugh out loud, where couple of these zombies or whatever they are, they come across a couple in the woods, husband and wife, and their children are somewhere around or somewhere as well. And the husband immediately runs away.
He pushes the wife out of the Yeah, I remember that.
That was funny. I thought that was good.
There were little moments in the scene where you could tell that they were they were having fun with it. Like you could tell that they knew what they were doing, and they were like, "Hey, I'm gonna push this girl and push her out of the way." Yeah, so yeah, there's like a full camping set, and he comes up to like, "Hey," and he goes, so then he just pushes his wife out of the way, and takes off.
That's good. I like to see some more stuff like that. You know,
Mm.
just like people acting kind of, maybe unfortunately, maybe realistically, right? People
Yeah.
aren't as heroic as they think they are
Right, yeah.
in real life. And I mean, there's gore in it. I mean, it's not good gore. I would say it's at least looks kind of unwholesome or grisly now and again. Like,
Mm.
I don't like the. Oh, I'm glad I'm not one of these actors. Like when they're like drinking buckets of filthy water.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Looks
glad
like it
I'm
was.
not in this film.
Yeah, it was really like, and actually that connects to the movie we're going to talk about next too, which is
Right.
that it's just really like
Yeah.
gross circumstances, and I feel like they must have actually gotten sick when they were doing this stuff, right?
We'll get to that because that's
yeah.
But so there's that, and like I said, it's not the worst film I've ever seen, you know, but it's a pretty shoddy, mostly quite boring zombie.
It's pretty boring. It doesn't really go anywhere, and as I said, the symptoms were very ill defined, and so you kind of like, well, what am I worried about happening here? You don't know what. There's no tension really, because you don't know what is actually. Sometimes they're just kind of like walking around like this, and sometimes they're attacking you with knives, and sometimes they're trying to eat you. Like, I don't know what stuff. Like, and then but they have like little moments of like, obviously they brought in people like, and then of course Bear was mentioning the guy in the house in the woods,
Yes.
who is like must be a proper actor. I mean, this guy was in a different movie, right? Right. So like he was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna sink my teeth. He probably had this like backstory for this guy, right? You could tell like he was like a proper, like he had done his work on this, and he was just it was just a totally different movie, right? This guy was in. He was
He
really
was the
took
guy
it
who
seriously.
ran like the regional theater for years and years and years.
Yeah, probably like they found the local actor guy, in town, right? But I'll do this part, But so I mean, it was fun to watch, but so the balance was so off, that it became even more, if they're all shitty, then you can kind of like, okay, well, I know what I mean, but it just draws more attention to the crappiness when some people are actually pretty good. So
unfortunately, those bits are kind of few and far between, though. Like we said, there's the moments, but then there's a lot of just drags. But it's here more than anything, I suppose, as an example of the post Romero kind of low budget. So it's one of those films that makes quite. I remember this actually. Seeing the trailer for this on a trailer compilation tape when I was a kid, and it's one of those films that kind of makes for quite a good trailer, right? They just show some of the most.
I think I mean, this was just before Evil Dead, right?
Yeah, like a year or two before.
Year or two before, right? So I would say this must have been like the rise of the time of like the people trying to make their own movies, right?
That's like I said,
that's what Evil Dead is kind of famous for, right? Which is like finally like making your own independent movie. So this is like really the rise of that kind of thing, where it was like there's not studio stuff, but just you get your own camera and you make it yourself, right? So
that's our focus, right? Is this kind of independent thing? But no, it's actually it's a good example, because even I think the original Within the Woods or whatever it's called, the short version of Evil Dead, I think even predates this maybe a little bit by like a year or something. So so around the same time, there's people out in the woods shooting, but some people are Sam Raimi and some people aren't, right?
Right. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So
I think that's the thing.
Chuck McCann is not.
No. So Bin Laden loves Sam Raimi, though. So right, let us move on, because I think this deserves a little bit more time, because this is a bit of an oddity. We will go back to 1973, and this is a film which I think was actually considered lost for a long time before it was dug up on DVD like about 20 years ago or something. And this is MALATESTA'S Carnival of Blood, directed by Christopher Spieth. Largely, totally shot in a place called Willow Grove Park. And this was I think the nearest big urban center would have been Philadelphia. I think it's around about Philadelphia way. And this was quite a major theme park apparently in its day. Like this, this was quite an early one. Like I was listening to the commentary track. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it, but this place has been around for like a really, really, really long time. And despite its look in the film, it's not actually, I mean, you'd swear, oh, this place has been abandoned years ago, right? But no, apparently this place was actually still operative at the time.
Right.
Which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't get away with the health and safety standards of.
Yes, of course, yeah.
There's like an overhead shot at one point of the park and the roller coaster, and you sit out and you think, fucking hell, this place looks dangerous.
Death trap, yeah.
Yeah. So this one, as far as this is a fucking weird movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Weird's a good word for it.
But I think the setup is, and I was trying to figure out if this is in itself, if this is just weird and unlikely, or if this is how theme parks are run, or but so basically there's some new families, right, have moved into this theme park. There's the Davises and there's the Norrises and there's the 3 or 4 different families, and they seem to have all been assigned different parts of the park, right? Like, oh, you're in charge of the roller coaster, you're in charge of the dodgems, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that. And they all seem to have arrived at the same time, and they're just kind of getting to know each other and find their trailers. And so I don't think this is actually how you get a job at a theme park, right?
No, I don't think so, yeah. But yeah, I think the idea was that the guys, the writer was, what's his name, Werner Liebold. I think his idea was that someone, obviously someone had gone missing working at this park, and so they wanted his family to come looking for him and give him a reason to infiltrate this thing. So they just sort of had this. He made this. He made up a hiring practice of families being hired.
Yes, yeah. It's a very contrived. I mean, that's about as far as I think that's about as far as I actually understand the story, really. I just about get that extremely contrived setup, and then it just goes off the rails, right? Like
what? It's just a dream.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, very dreamlike. Yeah.
It's like the I don't know. It's the incredibly, I don't know. I wrote down it's exploitation meets art house, right? Is what.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a million miles away from something David Lynch might come up with, like lots of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it has a kind of dream logic to it, I suppose. But it's so bizarre. Like, I actually quite enjoyed it, I have to say. Just because I didn't know what the fuck was going to happen next. What was your overall? Did you kind of get on with this, or did you find it boring, or what?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it was strangely absorbing, despite the fact that I don't usually get on with this type of movie.
Well, yeah.
One thing, one thing that I have to props to was the soundtrack of this movie was really interesting. Yes. It was really, I mean, it really added a lot. I guess I was reading a little bit about it. Is that a guy? The soundtrack was made by a person who, or hold on, let me look it up. It's he was like it was the Spieth's brother, the director's brother was the guy who did the soundtrack, and his job was actually to tell the difference between an earthquake and an underground nuclear explosion, like for the government. Like he was like a sound, like a proper, like a sound engineer. Like it was like,
right.
And so he actually used these like deep bass tones from like underground explosions and earthquakes as part of the soundtrack. So it was really unsettling. Like it was a real interesting, like more than like just like a like a synthesizer beep boop beep boop, whereas Blood Eaters was obviously like a Halloween ripoff, right? It was like right to the point they did the beep 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 beep, beep, like they're really trying to do it, right? Rather than just doing like a ripoff or some sort of like synthesizer, it was like a real like this real unsettling, like what is that noise? And like it's they added to the dream like quality of it, right? And it was
and it also I think as well it's that weird overlap when something's ludicrous but creepy at the same time, like that janitor character walks his stick like that. It's like he's comical, but he's also kind of, I wouldn't like him to be following me around. There's something very weird looking about everyone. So apparently, this I guess it's in the end it turns out to be cannibals living in like some limestone tunnels underneath the theme park, right?
Okay. I'm not even really sure what happened yet, to be honest. So
no, it's gone out of my mind because like you said, it's like a dream. It's like you wake up from it and you're like, what did I?
Yeah, you're like, wait, well, what was that? Yeah.
Was the villagers really in that running around?
Yeah, villagers. Yeah, that was one of his first movies, I guess, right? Yeah, it was his pre-Fantasy Island, right?
Eddie. Much. Yes, so we were talking. So I think that's the story, and there's like the Malatesta is this kind of head vampire figure,
right?
Who spends most of his time watching old silent films.
Yeah, the ghouls, I guess they calls them, are just they're putting on old silent films. Maybe they were just don't know what that was all about. Yeah, and rolling around in dirty vinyl.
Yes. Yeah, well, we should talk about this because you were mentioning the films. By the way, I noticed Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I think they were watching, which are all public domain, I think, at the time. So.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, probably that's why. Yeah.
But yes, no. So there's a look to this, and I was trying to figure this out. Right. So on the one hand, you do have a dilapidated theme park, although apparently still running, although you probably wouldn't want to send your kids there unless you wanted to get rid of them. But there's other parts then which are obviously I'm assuming it's not part of the theme park, which is like you said, constructed from like plastic and foil,
lots and lots of red bubble wrap.
With styrofoam cups.
I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be realistic, or if it was supposed to be look like a art project or something. It was like this big mouth with like made with red bubble wrap, and then these like styrofoam cups as teeth. And it was like, is that supposed to be like? Is that just them? Is it supposed to be like look like it's something that someone made it, or is it supposed to be like an actual mouth? That they just didn't have the budget for. I couldn't tell. Right.
And to your point about it being like everything's grimy and dirty and oily, or like nothing looks clean. And there's like there's that one scene where there's like a witch like character like drinking some brackish water.
Right.
Oh man, that's
gross. Yeah. And apparently I read the trivia, and apparently there's one part where they eat someone. The ghouls were eating someone, and apparently some of them got really into the part and actually ate the raw like meat that had been sitting out all day, and they all got like sick, and they got like all food poisoning from it. And so that there's several scenes of this like just this dirty clear plastic that's kind of like got a fan underneath it because it's billowing up, and she's just rolling around in this plastic. And it's so random, but it has such a weird feel to it, that it's like
do you think
can't say.
Do you think that's part of the? Do you think that's supposed to be? Is that like their haunted house or something? Or
that's what this. Film? That's exactly. You just hit on it exactly. This is what the feeling that I had from this movie, right? I mean, there's no real discernible story really, and you barely tell the characters apart. But basically, it felt like going into like sort of like your neighborhood haunted house at Halloween, right? Where it's just like a whole bunch of like random scary images or like, you know, kind of creepy things that they kind of just tack together in one house, and then you're walking through and it's like, oh, okay, well, there's that, oh, and there's that thing, and then there's that thing. They have no real connection to each other, but it's just sort of like this sort of like as many like this anything that they could just throw it against the wall, whatever sticks, they keep it, right?
But what's peculiar about it, like if it was just a shoddy, cheaply made attempt at a haunted house or something, there'd be things like, I don't know, a plastic skeleton or little plastic skulls or vampires, but there's nothing overtly like that, right? Which is what makes it weird. It's like it's like a space someone's made, like if they were refurbishing like a building or something, like they put up all this stuff, like, and then just left it, like, yeah, it's very, and then if they didn't find it, is this what they constructed for the film? Like, why did they do that? Like, and there's another bit where one of our characters is in. I was trying to figure out what it was. It's like a swinging chair or something. If you look at it, it's a Volkswagen Beetle hanging upside down, full of padding. I'm assuming that must be a ride of some sort.
Yeah, they're just really random things all kind of lashed together, and it all kind of has this sort of creepy feel to it. So I think in general it was a relatively successful in what it was setting out to do, but it was just sort of like, you're just like, what is this? And it is this sort of mildly grimy, unsettling feeling to the whole thing, which I guess is what the point is. And then when you're finished with it, you're just like, what did I just watch? Like, what was that? And then you forget about it 5 minutes later.
And it's really elliptical as well. Like there's scenes in it where there's one bit where the parents' characters are running around from some, so it's like a chase scene. It's like a chase scene that's been going on, and then it just fades out halfway through it, and we go somewhere else, and you're like,
We'll have it. Doesn't matter.
It's definitely.
And I heard, I think it was saying that the movie had been. I read another trivia that said the movie was edited many times. So it may have just been that like that footage got lost or damaged, that they couldn't finish it. They couldn't finish the chase scene, so they just, and so it ended up being has this real kind of, as we said, dreamlike quality, because nothing really feeds into each other. It just random things, right? So. Yeah,
I'm going to watch it again, actually, I think, because I'm kind of curious to see. It's just, it's such a bewilderment.
This is the first viewing for you. You'd never seen it?
I'd never seen it. I'd heard of it, and I thought, oh, let's try this on for size. And while I was watching it, I was thinking, I wonder if the spell of this, because you can never quite tell with you, is this going to work, or is he just going to find it really boring, right? So I'm quite glad.
Well, it was a little both, right? Because somehow I was like, what is this? And I'm just getting bored. But sometimes you're like, whoa, that's really interesting. What is this?
Yeah, the boredom's almost built in. Like it's actually kind of works to be bored for a while.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's an odd. I mean, and it's one thing as well to. So it's a lost film, and it came out on DVD, and it's got liner notes or whatever, and people have talked. But can you imagine like just wandering into a theater on its initial kind of whatever run it might have had, if it had one at all? Can you imagine seeing this in a theater with other paying patrons? It must have been just fucking surreal, right?
Yeah.
Looking up at the projection booth, like, what if they'd made a
what's going on up here?
Yeah.
It definitely feels like a drug trip too. I mean, so I wonder if these people were all on drugs. So it's possible. Yeah,
it's one of those films as well that I don't think you don't need to see it stoned, because you feel stoned anyway.
You already feel stoned watching it. Yeah. So anyway,
most bizarre. So there we go. Quite interesting. Another look at what they were up to in Pennsylvania in the 70s. And
in the 70s.
And we'll be back. We shall be remaining in Pennsylvania for, I think, at least another couple of double bills. So originally it was just 3 shows, but I think we're doing 4 in Pennsylvania.
Yay.
Look how thrilled little Ron is. There you go. But
All right.
then again, we did get something interesting this time, right?
Yeah. All right, get back in the car, Clive. Let's go.
Yes, if you're looking for something a bit offbeat, then MALATESTA'S Carnival of Blood.
All right.
Step on it, Ron.
Right. See you, hippies.
Bye,
Run over
hippies. Bye,
running over the hippies.
hippies.
You never told the truth ever since you've been a youth. I can't believe you. That's why I leave you. I can't believe you. I can't believe you. You always told lies, brought the water for my eyes. I can't believe you. That's why I leave you. I can't believe you. I can't believe